On December 20th, 2019, Konami released quite a slew of Yu-Gi-Oh! News, and we've got some pretty big things on the horizon here. Mainly in regards to the card game, of course, but there's a few other things that we'll be talking about here as well. To get started, there's news pertaining to the legacy of the Duelist video game, which released on Switch some time ago. As a game, it plays fairly well. It's a nice way to kill some time, but honestly, the grind is pretty intense if you want to get some really good cards to play some of the more meta-relevant decks. At this time, it is exclusive to the Nintendo Switch, but Konami has announced that it will be coming to PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Steam. So for those who may not have a Switch at this time and may want to check this out, you'll soon have your chance to be able to do so. There's also going to be a free update on the Switch, which will be adding some cards such as Christian Needlefiber or Halquifibrax for the TCG. I don't know why they changed the name like that. Firewall Dragon Dark Fluid, and IP Masquerena. On one hand, I'm very excited to be seeing IP Masquerena added because she's a very good card, but I do wish we got some news for a more robust addition to the card pool, since quite a few new archetypes and support has come out for both the OCG and TCG since the release of this game. Other additions will include characters such as Blue Maiden, Soul Burner, and Revolver. With these characters, I am hoping that this is going to include some small updates to the card library, since at this moment, these characters have very little to no support in the current library of cards in the game. Soulburner being a very prime example, since there's very few Salamangreat cards in the game at the time of this recording. I would also love to see more characters from Vrains make their way into the game, like Ghost Girl or even Blood Shepherd, but only time's going to tell at this point. Another announcement included Neuron, which will be a mobile app that will consist of functions to keep track of life points, including a log of those changes, a coin toss, as well as act as a timer. It will also utilize the camera for image recognition to pull up information on the cards. This will hopefully be useful for situations where you may be playing someone using cards of another language so that you can get a quick translation during your duels. The app can also be used to create, store, and share deck lists. Current information shows that non-members will be able to register up to 10 different deck lists, and that registered members will be able to register more. However, there currently is no specified number. It may be safe to assume that you may need to pay in order to be a registered member. Personally, I would be more open to a one-time fee rather than there being a subscription service for this, but this is just my personal speculation at this moment. It also appears that the app will also have a function to simulate opening hands by having it draw 5 cards from a deck list. There was also a trailer shown for the new Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime series, which will be titled Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens. Clearly not the most inspired title for this, as it is also the 7th series. Quite frankly, I found the trailer to be very underwhelming, especially knowing that Vrains ended prematurely in preparation for this series. If you have not watched Vrains, I definitely advise checking it out. Not only is it a good Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime, it is also a good anime in general. Despite the shortcomings of having 3 recap episodes in very close proximity to each other in the first season, the writing for the series covers difficult issues such as trauma and depression in a way that was handled very well. One shocking bit of news with this is that Studio Gallop will not be animating Yu-Gi-Oh! 7s. Instead, the studio appears to be Bridge. This would definitely explain why initially the style of the anime definitely didn't seem to resonate with Yu-Gi-Oh! To me while I was watching it. Frankly, I find the protagonist to look a tad generic compared to other Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro tags. Gallop has animated the series ever since the Duel Monster series in 2000, so this is definitely a big change. While I'm not too excited for it, I'll still check it out and hope that they may do something interesting with the story. In the trailer for Sevens, you'll notice that they mention something called Rush Duels. This appears to be a new format that will be coming out with the release of the new anime. It looks as though Konami is taking the concept of speed duels a bit further. 3 monster zones still appears to be the norm here, and here's what we know of this format thus far. Rush Duels will use specialized cards. Clearly they have a very different appearance to what we're used to. There will be continuous summoning. You'll be able to summon any number of monsters per turn, though I assume so long as you have the open monster zones to do so. It also looks as though level 5 or higher monsters will still require tributes in order for them to be summoned. Mass drawing. Each turn, you'll draw until your hand becomes 5. While I still don't really have a strong opinion on the concept of rush duels, I will say that I think the idea to make the cards have a different appearance is definitely a good thing. I know a few people have expressed some confusion and frustration in regards to speed duels, since the cards are very similar to the TCG, with the exception of the speed duels stamp on the cards, meaning that TCG cards cannot be used in the speed duel format, while still allowing speed duel cards to be utilized in the TCG. So just simplifying that, if you want to use it for speed duels, it has to have the stamp on it, but you can use those stamped cards for the TCG. And finally, we have the Master Rules update. This is probably the biggest news as it directly affects the OCG and TCG. In the current Master Rule, Link monsters have become a needed item in order to summon those other extra deck monsters out onto the field, since they could not do so unless there is a zone that a Link arrow points to. Now you will have the ability to place your Fusion, Synchro, or Xyz monsters onto the extra monster zones or to your main monster zones without the need of Link monsters and their Link arrows. Link monsters as well as Pendulum monsters from the extra deck will still work the same way, needing to utilize the extra monster zones as well as the Link arrows. Again, this is specifically for Fusion, Synchro, and Xyz monsters. This is definitely going to be an interesting change, as it will still be the needed nerf that Pendulum monsters needed, while still giving a buff for Fusion, Synchro, and Xyz monsters. I know my friend Noel loves his Gem Knights, and with them being a Fusion deck, it'll be neat to see how they'll work under this new ruling. I personally am looking forward to seeing how decks like Rose Dragons, Fluffles, and Madolches will fare under these new rules. One thing to keep in mind though, while this will help some of those older decks that creeped out of the meta, this is definitely going to be giving a very strong boost to certain meta decks such as Thunder Dragons. Personally, I'm still in the process of picking up the Thunder Dragon core, but with this possible resurgence of Fusion, Synchro, and Xyz decks, you may want to start getting your copies of Dimensional Barriers. If you haven't already, I strongly recommend picking up cards from Duel Devastator. It's a great set that contains plenty of great staple cards for new, budget, and returning players, and Dimensional Barrier is included in that set, as well as those famous hand traps that everybody keeps talking about. The Master Rule update will be going into effect on April 1st, 2020, and no, this is not going to be an April Fool's joke. It's going to be legit. It's going to start on that day. So stay on the lookout for these, and let's look forward to another fun year of Yu-Gi-Oh! Goodbye.